It was Christmas Eve. I was in the kitchen baking cookies when the phone rang. My son Ryan's voice came through cold, sharp, like a knife straight through my heart. Mom, this year it's just Claire's family at the party. We want to keep it private. My hand trembled as I held the receiver, my chest tightening. 65 years of life, 41 years of raising him, and this was how he spoke to me, as if I were an old piece of furniture taking up space in his perfect life. What did you say, Ryan? Only Claire's family? I asked, though deep down, I already knew the answer. My daughter-in-law, Claire, had probably planned this for a while. I'd seen her whispering into Ryan's ear during family gatherings, throwing me those disdainful looks when she thought I wasn't watching. Oh, Mom, it's because Claire wants to do something special for Ethan. You know how much he loves Christmas. Ethan, my 8-year-old grandson, the little boy who always ran to hug me, shouting, "Grandma," every time we met. My heart shattered, yet somehow my lips curved into a faint smile. That's wonderful, sweetheart, I said calmly. Ryan was silent for a few seconds, maybe waiting for me to beg or cry. Aren't you upset, Mom? Not at all, honey. Enjoy yourselves. What Ryan didn't know, what none of them knew, was that just a few days earlier, I had signed the papers to buy a $10 million mansion in Malibu, overlooking the Pacific Ocean. A home I'd had my eye on for months, waiting for the right moment to make my move. While they thought I was just a poor old widow living off my son in a cramped little apartment, I was quietly managing investments they couldn't even imagine. For years, I'd swallowed Claire's condescending remarks about how some older people just don't understand that young families need their own space. I endured those pitying glances at parties, while wearing the same olive green dress I loved, the one that had seen me through 3 holiday seasons. I smiled when they sat me at the far end of the table, away from the important conversations. I pretended not to hear Claire on the phone saying, "She's too old for that sort of thing anyway." But something changed in me that night. Maybe it was the iciness in Ryan's tone. Maybe it was the humiliation of being disinvited from Christmas by my own son through a phone call instead of a face-to-face talk. Or maybe it was just time to stop being the victim in my own family story. Later that evening, as I sipped my coffee, the golden reflection of my new Malibu mansion's key glinting on the table, I knew exactly what I needed to do. The house had 8 bedrooms, an infinity pool overlooking the ocean, a living room big enough for 50 guests, vaulted ceilings with heavy wooden beams, and floor-to-ceiling glass doors opening to soft white sand, a world away from the poor old lady image they had painted of me. While they were busy preparing for their intimate family dinner, I was planning a Christmas night they would never forget. That night in bed, I thought of all the times I'd been humiliated, when Claire forgot to invite me to Ethan's birthday party, when Ryan handed me a small check for your little expenses with that half smile of superiority, when they cropped me out of the family photo because there just wasn't enough room in the frame. Each tiny wound had built up over the years, like drops of poison seeping into my soul. But now, I held the pen to rewrite my story. They thought they were controlling my fate, but they were wrong. I was. The fragile, compliant Angela they once knew had died with that phone call. From her ashes, a different woman was born. The next day, I decided to do something I hadn't dared to in years: go to Ryan and Claire's house, unannounced. I needed to look them in the eyes, to hear their reasons for shutting me out of Christmas. I rang the bell of their 2-story home in an upscale Santa Monica neighborhood, the very house I'd helped them pay off 5 years earlier when Ryan was unemployed. Claire opened the door, irritation flickering across her face. "Mrs. Angela, we weren't expecting you." Her tone was clipped, as if she'd just stepped on something unpleasant. She didn't invite me in right away, just stood blocking the doorway, as if I were a door-to-door salesperson. "Hello, Claire. I came to see Ethan, and also to talk about the Christmas plans. She reluctantly stepped aside, glancing toward Ryan, who had just walked out of the living room, his face tense with embarrassment. Mom, I told you already. This year, we just want to do things a little differently, he said, unable to meet my eyes. From inside the room, Ethan came running out, shouting, Grandma, with that bright, innocent smile. But before he could reach me, Claire placed her hand firmly on his shoulder. Ethan, go do your homework. The adults are talking. My grandson's smile vanished instantly. I sat down on the sofa I'd given them last year and watched Claire take the seat across from me, wearing that self-satisfied expression as if she alone owned the house. Mrs. Angela, please understand this isn't personal, she began sweetly, every word dipped in disdain. It's just that my family has our own Christmas traditions. Her tone was the kind people use when explaining something simple to a slow child. And what exactly is this special tradition that I'm not allowed to share? I asked, keeping my voice calm but steady enough to make her uneasy. Well, Mom, it's just that Claire's family, they're a bit more refined. They like a certain kind of elegant atmosphere. You understand, right? Each word cut through him as he said it. Claire smirked the same condescending half-smile I'd learned to hate. That's right. My parents are from Boston. They have their own standards. There'll be French wine, foie gras, caviar, and fine European china. It's going to be a very sophisticated evening. She gave me a long look from head to toe, as if assessing whether my simple olive dress was worthy of sharing the same table with her family. I see, I said quietly, feeling the heat of humiliation rise in my cheeks. So tell me, Claire, what exactly about me isn't sophisticated enough? The question hit the room like a small explosion. Ryan cleared his throat, searching for words. Mom, it's not like that. It's just, you're not used to that kind of atmosphere. Right then, Ethan ran back toward me again, wanting to hug me. But Claire was faster. Ethan, didn't you hear me? Go upstairs. Now. Her tone carried that icy authority she always used to remind everyone who ruled this house. My grandson looked back at me, eyes hesitant and sad, before disappearing behind his bedroom door. Do you know what really bothers me? Mrs. Angela. Claire leaned forward, her eyes sharp as glass. It's that you always try to be the center of attention at every gathering, always telling old stories, always wanting everyone to notice you. My parents aren't used to that kind of behavior. Her words hit me like open-handed slaps. Ryan lowered his head, ashamed but silent, too weak to defend his own mother. Encouraged by his silence, Claire went on. You always buy cheap gifts for Ethan. Last year, you gave him a little plastic toy that broke in 2 days. My parents, on the other hand, sent him on a trip to Disney World. See the difference? Claire, that's enough. Ryan tried to interrupt, but she shot him a sharp look and kept going. No, Ryan, someone has to be honest. Mrs. Angela, it's not that we dislike you, it's just that you no longer fit into our lifestyle. I said nothing. Your stories about coupons, grocery shopping, or your little sale hunting tips, they don't really fit when we have distinguished guests. My parents would think we lack class. And if you were to show up again in one of those old dresses from thrift stores, like you always do, Claire's eyes swept over my simple olive green dress, a look dripping with disdain. Don't take it the wrong way. Modesty is nice, but everything has its limits. Ryan finally spoke up, only to agree. Mom, Claire's not wrong. Maybe this year it's best if everyone celebrates in their own way. You can stay home, have a light dinner, watch TV, no need to feel pressured by a fancy party. The betrayal in his voice cut straight through my heart. The son I had raised alone after his father left us was now sitting there, suggesting that I spend Christmas by myself while they dined on foie gras and caviar with Claire's wealthy family. And one more thing, Claire added, a cruel smile forming on her lips. You tend to eat a bit too much at parties. My parents care a lot about proper table manners. We just don't want any awkward moments. That was the moment something inside me broke for good. It wasn't just being excluded, it was being humiliated, deliberately, for their petty satisfaction in putting me down. I rose slowly from my seat, feeling every nerve in my body shift. I understand completely, I said, my voice unnervingly calm. I'm glad you do, Claire replied with visible relief. I know you're a reasonable person. After all, we all just want what's best for the family. Her smile gleamed, as if she'd just crossed an unpleasant chore off her list. As I walked to the door, I heard Ethan crying upstairs. Ryan followed me out to the gate, still wearing a trace of guilt. Mom, please understand. It's nothing personal. Words slid past my ears, empty, rehearsed. Of course, honey. Nothing personal at all, I repeated, emphasizing each word, savoring the bitter irony on my tongue. They didn't know that things were about to become very personal. When I reached my car parked in the driveway, I felt the cold metal keys in my coat pocket. The keys to the oceanfront mansion in Malibu, and they felt like a promise that justice was coming. That night, in my small Los Angeles apartment, I sat at the table, picked up the phone, and started making calls. It was time to plan the most magnificent Christmas party my family had ever seen. And this year, Ryan and Claire would be the only two not invited. Later that same night, still carrying the weight of humiliation, I opened the safe, hidden behind my closet. Inside were things no one in my family had ever seen. Investment certificates, company shares, property deeds. For 15 years, since my husband Robert passed away, I had played the role of the poor widow living off her children. But the truth was very different. Robert had been smarter and more cautious than anyone realized. Before he died, he quietly invested in tech stocks, and now they were worth a fortune. He also bought cheap land in the outskirts of California, places no one cared about at the time, but now they had turned into multi-million-dollar developments. When he passed, he left me not only love but $5 million that had quietly multiplied over the years. Why did I keep it a secret? At first, because of grief, I couldn't bear to touch anything that belonged to him. But later, as I saw my family's true colors, I realized silence was power. I wanted to see who truly loved me for who I was, and who only cared about the money. Now, I had my answer. And soon, they would have theirs in a way they would never forget. The $10 million Malibu mansion was just the beginning. I also owned properties in 3 different states, an investment portfolio that generated more income than I could ever spend, and connections my family couldn't begin to imagine. While Claire bragged about her high society family from Boston, I was dining with California real estate magnates and prominent philanthropists, and none of them, not even Ryan, had the slightest idea. The next day, I began my plan. First, I called my sister Olivia, who lived in another state and hadn't seen the family in 2 years because of a falling out with Claire. Olivia, it's me, Angela. Do you have any plans for Christmas yet? Her voice instantly brightened. Oh my God, I can't believe you called. Honestly, I was just planning to stay home this year. Come to my new house this year. A Christmas party like no other. I gave her the address to the mansion, and I could hear hesitation in her voice. Angela, are you sure? This address is in the most expensive area on the California coast. Exactly, I said with a small smile. Just come. I'll explain everything when you get here. Bring a beautiful dress and your best holiday spirit. Next, I called my cousin Matthew, the one I'd always treated like a younger brother, but whom Ryan and Claire had looked down on just because he worked as a mechanic. Matthew, how about we do something different for Christmas this year? Matthew had been publicly humiliated by Claire last year when she told him to wash his hands really well before touching any of the furniture in her house. Are you okay, Angela? Ryan said you canceled the party. Ah, so Ryan had pretended to be me to cancel the invitations. How interesting. I'm better than ever, Matthew. I want you and your family to come to my house for Christmas. I've got a surprise for everyone. When I read him the address, I could hear the shock in his voice. Angela, are you sure? That's a neighborhood for the ultra-rich. Trust me, I said softly. Dress up and get ready for the most unforgettable Christmas of your life. I continued calling each relative and friend, the very people Ryan and Claire had gradually excluded from family gatherings because they weren't classy enough. The guest list grew to 35 people, and that was just the beginning. Over the next few days, I began moving in circles my family knew nothing about. I called Evelyn, my longtime friend, now the director of a multi-million-dollar charity foundation in San Francisco. My dear Evelyn, would you like to spend Christmas at my house? I'd love for you to meet my family. Evelyn knew me better than anyone. She had offered to help before, but I had always wanted to handle everything on my own. Of course, Angela. Finally, they'll find out you're the one behind all those donations to the foundation. I chuckled softly. Let's just say they're about to discover a lot about me. I also invited Leonard, my financial advisor, who had helped me grow my wealth quietly for over 10 years. Leonard, I want you to come to my Christmas party and meet my son, Ryan. Are you planning to tell them about your investments? He asked curiously. Something like that. I think it's time my son learns who his mother really is. I also called Iris, the interior designer who had transformed my mansion into a glittering Christmas palace straight out of Architectural Digest. Iris, I want you to capture everything, every photo, every video, every detail. Meanwhile, I kept living my old routine, shopping with coupons, wearing simple sweaters, and staying in my small apartment in Los Angeles. But every night, I drove back to the Malibu mansion to oversee preparations. The garden was now draped with thousands of golden lights, their reflections shimmering across the infinity pool. The ocean view balcony was decorated with fresh wreaths that alone cost more than Claire spent on clothes in an entire month. That week, Ryan called me twice. Maybe guilt had finally started to catch up with him. Mom, are you okay? You sounded strange the other day. His voice carried a hint of worry, something I hadn't heard in years. Wonderful, sweetheart. Honestly, I've never felt better. I hope you and Claire enjoy your fancy European-style dinner. Mom, if you want, you can come have dessert with us. Don't worry about me, Ryan, I interrupted gently. I'm going to have a wonderful Christmas, maybe the best one of my life. He hesitated. Mom, are you going to someone's house? Just enjoy your caviar and foie gras, I said with a smile. He couldn't see. I'll be exactly where I'm meant to be. 3 days before Christmas, Claire called. Mrs. Angela, I hope you're not upset about the other day. I just wanted to make sure you understand. It was what's best for everyone. Her voice was syrupy, sweet, fake, as always. Not at all, Claire. On the contrary, I should thank you. You've helped me open my eyes. I heard her sigh with relief. That's wonderful. I knew you'd understand. After all, family is what matters most, right? Absolutely, I said with a soft smile. Family is the most important thing. When I said those words, I thought of the 35 guests who had already confirmed they'd be at the Malibu mansion for Christmas Eve. The night before Christmas, I arrived at the mansion to check the final details. When Matthew showed up early to help, his reaction was exactly what I expected. He froze at the gate, mouth open, staring at the glowing marble fountain, the perfectly manicured garden, and the majestic mansion standing proudly under the California night sky. Cousin, whose house is this? Matthew asked as we walked along the stone pathway lined with shimmering Christmas lights. It's mine, Matthew. Completely mine. He stopped in his tracks, eyes wide. How is that possible? It's a long story. Let's just say I've been keeping a few secrets. As we stepped into the living room, with its 20-foot-high ceiling, a white marble fireplace blazing, and floor-to-ceiling windows opening to my private Malibu beach, Matthew dropped onto the Italian leather sofa, eyes glued to the view. Angela, I don't understand any of this. Does Ryan know? No, he doesn't have a clue. And tomorrow night, when he sees pictures of our party online, he'll realize he just made the biggest mistake of his life. I pulled out my phone and opened the guest list. Matthew's eyes widened in disbelief. Our entire family will be here, except Ryan, Claire, and Ethan. He looked at me and immediately understood what was coming. Cousin, they deserve this. Yes, Matthew, I said calmly. They'll get exactly what they deserve. On Christmas morning, I woke up in my little apartment for the last time. I kept my usual morning routine to the very end, but my heart beat fast with an excitement I hadn't felt in decades. Around 10 a.m., Ryan called. His voice carried that forced cheerfulness he used whenever he felt guilty. Merry Christmas, Mom. What are you up to? Wonderful, sweetheart. I'm getting ready for a very special celebration. I wasn't lying. Oh, are you going to Aunt Olivia's? Ryan asked, sounding relieved as if that somehow eased his guilt. Something like that. Olivia will be with me, along with a few other very special people. I could hear Claire's voice in the background, probably asking what I'd said. That's great, Mom. We're going to have a beautiful day, too. Claire's parents are bringing French champagne, $500 a bottle. Of course he had to brag. That's wonderful, Ryan. I hope you both have a lovely time. What about you, Mom? What are you going to do? This time, Claire grabbed the phone. I'll be spending Christmas with my family. Claire, the family that truly appreciates me. The silence that followed was so sweet, I almost savored it. When you say you're home, do you mean that little apartment of yours? I said exactly what I meant. Claire, my home. I hung up the phone, feeling a satisfaction I hadn't known in years. I knew that call would make them uneasy, but they couldn't possibly imagine what was coming. By noon, I was at the mansion, doing the final inspection. The kitchen buzzed with activity, the team led by Philip, a French chef who once worked in a Michelin-starred restaurant, was hard at work in the luxurious space. The menu made Claire's foie gras look like fast food. Fresh lobster, Norwegian salmon, authentic beluga caviar, and hand-selected wine from Napa Valley. The aroma drifting from the kitchen was pure heaven. Iris, the interior designer, had outdone herself. The living room looked straight out of a Christmas fairy tale. The tree stood over 13 feet tall, decorated with Austrian crystal and twinkling golden lights that cast a magical glow. The dining table was set with fine white porcelain, handcrafted crystal glasses, and delicate white orchids, each arrangement costing more than Ryan's monthly salary. Around 2 p.m., guests began to arrive. The first was Olivia, who came by taxi. When the car stopped in front of the mansion, her face was priceless. She stood frozen for 5 minutes, staring at the house as if she were dreaming. Angela, don't tell me you've gotten yourself into something crazy, she finally said. Quite the opposite, my dear. For the first time in years, I'm exactly where I belong. I took her hand and gave her a tour of the mansion. Every room left her wide-eyed with amazement. How is this even possible? Since when do you have this kind of money? We sat on the ocean view balcony with 2 glasses of real champagne, not the cheap kind Claire was probably serving at her elegant dinner. Do you remember when Robert passed away 15 years ago? I asked. She nodded. Well, it turns out my husband was far more financially savvy than anyone ever realized. I told her everything. The secret investments, the land that had turned to gold, the stocks that had multiplied 100-fold. But why didn't you ever say anything? She asked, still stunned. Because I needed to know who loved me for who I was, not for what I had. And the results are pretty clear now. Half an hour later, Matthew arrived with his wife, their 3 kids, and his mother-in-law. Their reaction was the same as Olivia's, multiplied by 6. Matthew's kids, ages 15 to 22, immediately started taking selfies all over the garden. Aunt Angela, this place looks like a princess's palace, the youngest daughter squealed. And you're all my little princes and princesses, I said, smiling as I soaked in their pure joy. That innocent happiness was nothing like the fake politeness I used to see from my own family. These children hugged me out of genuine affection, not because they expected to gain anything from it. As the afternoon went on, the mansion filled with laughter, music, and cheerful conversations. Each guest shared their own story about how Ryan and Claire had quietly pushed them out of family gatherings. One cousin, a nurse, said that Claire once told her not to wear your uniform to Ethan's birthday party because it might ruin the aesthetic. Recalled that last year Ryan told him, maybe it's time. The older generation steps aside for some new traditions. Each story felt like a knife to my heart, yet at the same time, it strengthened my resolve. Around 5 p.m., as the sun began to set over the Malibu coast, painting the sky in shades of gold and rose, Evelyn arrived with a surprise gift. She brought a professional photographer. I thought you'd want this night documented, she said with a mischievous smile. I have a feeling this will be a night for the history books. The photographer began capturing every moment: the laughter by the pool, the toasts on the balcony, the children running through the garden shimmering with lights. Every photo became proof of the spectacular celebration that Ryan and Claire had willingly forfeited because of their arrogance and cruelty. Leonard, my financial advisor, arrived with his wife, a doctor. Angela, when you said you had an interesting family, I didn't realize there would be this many people, he laughed, glancing around at the 35 guests. Real family, I replied, are the ones who love you without conditions. And as you can see, I'm very wealthy in that regard. Around 6 p.m., while we were enjoying appetizers on the balcony, my phone started ringing nonstop. It was Ryan. I let it ring. He called again immediately. This time, I put it on speaker so Olivia and Matthew could hear. Mom, where are you? I've been calling you all afternoon. He sounded panicked. At home, sweetheart. I'm having a wonderful Christmas Eve with my family. At home? We went to your apartment, but you weren't there. The security guard said you left early and never came back. The thought of them searching for me filled me with quiet satisfaction. So, they weren't too busy with their fancy dinner anymore. The silence that followed was thick and tense. Mom, wherever you are, please come home. Ethan's been asking for you all afternoon. And there it was, just like always using my grandson to play on my emotions. Tell Ethan that his grandma loves him very much, but tonight, she's celebrating with the family who truly values her. I could hear Claire's voice in the background, sharp with frustration. Her perfect plan was falling apart. Mrs. Angela, it's Claire. I don't know what kind of game you're playing, but this is ridiculous. Come here right now and stop making a scene. Her tone carried that same commanding arrogance, the one that always expected others to obey. A scene, Claire? This isn't a performance. This is real life. And in real life, every action has consequences. What do you mean? Ryan asked, his voice trembling. For the first time, I heard fear in it. I mean, I said slowly, you decided who was worthy of being part of the family Christmas, and I've made my own decision too. Then I hung up. Olivia looked at me, half admiring, half concerned. Angela, it seems like things are getting serious. It's about time they did, Olivia. For 15 years, I've swallowed my pride. I'd endured being treated like a stranger in my own family for too long. But now, enough was enough. A toast to Aunt Angela, the woman who showed us it's never too late to reclaim your dignity. Everyone lifted their glasses together. For the first time in years, I felt I truly belonged, surrounded by genuine love and respect. As the sun disappeared completely and the mansion lights glowed like something out of a fairy tale, I knew the night was just beginning. The best part was still ahead. Around 7 p.m. As the party reached its peak, I decided to move to phase 2 of my plan. Iris, I said to the interior designer, post all the photos and videos on social media, Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp. I want the world to see what a real Christmas looks like. Iris smiled knowingly and began selecting the photos on her laptop. The pictures were stunning. The mansion sparkled like a palace. The dining table looked fit for a Hollywood film, and guests raised crystal glasses against the deep blue ocean backdrop. Each image radiated elegance, wealth, and true happiness. Angela, these photos are going to blow up the internet, Evelyn said while scrolling through them. Especially this one you're toasting on the balcony at sunset. You look like a queen in her castle. She wasn't wrong. In that picture, I wore a champagne-colored gown I'd bought especially for this night, along with my late mother-in-law's jewelry worth more than Ryan's entire car. I posted the first photo. A wide shot of the glowing mansion surrounded by the garden, with the caption, Christmas, with family, with those who truly love me, grateful for this life. Comments started flooding in, instantly distant relatives, old friends, neighbors, all stunned by the splendor. Matthew laughed. Cousin, you should check your phone, the notifications won't stop. He was right, every minute brought dozens of new comments, questions, and congratulations. Angela, where is this? That house is incredible. Did you move to a resort? I posted the second photo, the dining room. All of us gathered around the long table, the crystal chandelier gleaming above. The caption read, Family together, 35 hearts beating as one. This is true wealth. The likes and comments skyrocketed. By around 8 p.m., as the main dinner began, my phone, which I had turned off, started vibrating non-stop inside my purse. When I turned it on for a moment, I saw 17 missed calls from Ryan, 9 from Claire, and 20 WhatsApp messages from Ryan. Mom, where are you? Whose house is that? How do you have so much money? Claire's crying. She doesn't understand. Please answer. I switched the phone off again and returned to the table. Chef Philip had prepared a 7-course meal beyond anything Claire could have ever imagined. We started with fresh oysters, followed by lobster bisque, each serving costing more than what Claire's parents had paid for their champagne. Aunt Angela, Matthew's oldest son, asked, I can't believe you lived in that tiny apartment while having all this. Why did you do it? It was the same question that lingered in everyone's mind at the table. Because I wanted to know who loved me for who I was, not for the number in my bank account. And now, I knew the answer for sure. Olivia raised her glass. My dear, here's to your wisdom. Most people would have flaunted their fortune years ago, but you waited 15 years just to see who truly cared. Everyone joined in the toast, emotions overflowing. I saw tears in many eyes. By 9 p.m., I posted the most striking photo yet. Me, standing on the main balcony, a glass of champagne in hand, the glowing mansion and deep blue ocean behind me. I wore the pearl necklace my mother had left me, a piece I'd never dared to wear before because Claire always mocked it as outdated. The caption read, 65 years old, and I've learned it's never too late to surround yourself only with true love. In less than an hour, there were over 200 comments and dozens of shares. Distant relatives, old friends, and neighbors all chimed in. Angela, we had no idea you had such a stunning home. Why didn't you ever invite us over? You look like a millionaire lady. Leonard, who had been watching the whole thing unfold, came over and said, Angela, you're a genius of digital revenge. This will make it impossible for Ryan and Claire to ignore or deny you. Exactly, I smiled. I want them to see clearly what they lost, all because of their arrogance. Around 10 p.m., I turned my phone back on to see how the drama was going. There were 43 missed calls from Ryan, 26 from Claire, and, surprisingly, 5 from Ethan using his friend's phone. Ryan's messages had shifted from confusion to desperation. Mom, please tell me what's going on. Is that house really yours? Claire says there's no way you have that kind of money. We're so worried. Please answer. But the most interesting message came from Claire. Mrs. Angela, I don't understand why you're doing this. Why didn't you ever tell us you had money? Ryan's really upset. We need to talk. And maybe I was wrong about the Christmas dinner. We can work this out. Too late, Claire. Far too late. Around 11 p.m. While enjoying dessert, a chocolate soufflé made by the French chef, so divine it tasted like heaven, I posted the video Iris had filmed during dinner. It showed everyone laughing, toasting, radiating joy. The caption read, Christmas with family. 35 people who chose to be with me on this magical night, grateful for endless love. The video spread rapidly among relatives. People I hadn't spoken to in years started messaging me. But what pleased me most was imagining Ryan and Claire watching every second of that video, finally realizing what they had lost. At midnight, as we stood on the balcony watching fireworks I had commissioned to close the night, Ethan called me again from his friend's phone. Grandma, why aren't you here? I miss you so much. His small voice tightened my chest. Sweetheart, I miss you too. But sometimes adults make choices, and those choices have consequences. Your parents decided Grandma wasn't fancy enough for their special party. But I want you here, Grandma. Mom's been crying, and Dad's really mad. My dear boy, one day, when you're older, you'll understand. The people who truly love you will never make you feel like you're not good enough. I could still hear Claire yelling in the background. Give me that phone right now. Before the call cut off, Iris came running over with her laptop in hand. Angela, you have to see this. Your post has been viewed by more than 500 people in just 4 hours. Everyone's asking about the mansion, about you, about this incredible transformation. The notifications kept pouring in, each one a small victory. Matthew sat beside me, looking up at the sky, exploding with fireworks. Cousin? Do you think Ryan and Claire have learned their lesson yet? They've only seen the tip of the iceberg, Matthew. Tomorrow they'll find out who I really am, and that shock will be bigger than anything they could ever imagine. Olivia wrapped her arms around me. Sister, this is the most wonderful Christmas of our lives. But I have to ask, what's going to happen tomorrow? Tomorrow, Olivia, I said softly, watching the last fireworks fade into the night sky. They'll come looking for me, and when they do, they'll learn the most important lesson of their lives. As the final sparks disappeared, I knew I had gained far more than revenge. I had reunited with those who truly loved me and proved that respect isn't something you beg for, it's something you claim. That night was perfect, but the real drama was only beginning. On the morning of December 26th, I woke up in the master bedroom of the mansion on a king-size bed facing the ocean. For the first time in years, I woke up with genuine peace in my heart. Olivia, my sister, had slept in the guest room. I found her on the balcony, sipping freshly brewed coffee as she gazed at the waves. "Good morning, Miss Millionaire," she teased, smiling playfully. "How does it feel to be the most powerful woman in the Mitter family?" Like justice, Olivia simple and fair. We sat down for breakfast that the chef had prepared before leaving. Croissants, fresh fruit, and eggs. Benedict that looked like works of art. Around 9 a.m. My phone rang. It was an unknown number. "Hello. Is this Mrs. Angela? This is Patricia, Ethan's mother. I'm sorry for calling so early, but Ryan and Claire showed up at my house at 7 a.m., asking if I knew where you were." "How interesting. They were desperate enough to track me down through their son's friend's parents." "What did you tell them?" I asked. "Well, we saw your photos on Facebook last night. That house is incredible. All the parents at school are talking about it. But they looked really worried. They said they need to see you right away." "Good. Tell them I'm perfectly fine. When I want to meet them, I'll reach out." I hung up, feeling deeply satisfied. The crisis had officially begun. Within the next 30 minutes, I received 5 more calls from neighbors in my old building, distant relatives, even Ethan's dentist. Ryan and Claire were mobilizing the entire world to find me. By 10 a.m., I turned my phone back on. Ryan's texts had shifted from confusion to panic. "Mom, I don't understand any of this. How do you have that mansion? Why didn't you ever tell us you were wealthy? Claire's so shocked she didn't sleep all night. Please, talk to us." Then came Claire's messages dripping with fear and regret. "Mrs. Angela, there must be some misunderstanding. Maybe I was a little too blunt yesterday, but you know me. I don't get why you had to stage this whole spectacle instead of just being honest with us. Ryan says you've always been private about money, but this is ridiculous." The last few messages were pure panic. "Mrs. Angela, please answer the phone. Everyone's asking about you and the mansion. Parents from Ethan's school keep calling us non-stop. Where are you?" By 11 a.m., I posted one final photo on social media. Me in a silk robe, sitting on the balcony, facing the Pacific Ocean, holding a steaming cup of coffee. The caption read, "Waking up in paradise. When you remove toxic people from your life, all that's left is peace and happiness." The responses came instantly. Within 10 minutes, I had over 50 comments. I saw Ryan react with a shocked emoji, and Claire commented, "Mrs. Angela, please call us. We're really worried." I didn't respond. By noon, Iris showed up, bursting with excitement. "Angela, you have to see this. Your story's gone beyond the family. One of your nieces shared your photos in a Facebook group with more than 10,000 members. Everyone's talking about the grandma with the secret Malibu mansion." Sure enough, the photos had spread far beyond the family circle. Hundreds of strangers were commenting, sharing their own stories about toxic relatives, praising what they called the perfect revenge. Around 1 p.m., I got a call from a blocked number. It was Ethan, his voice trembling through tears. "Grandma, please come home. Mom and Dad are mad and sad. They said you lied to them. I don't understand anything. I just want you to come back." My heart ached. "Sweetheart, Grandma didn't lie to anyone. I just kept some things to myself. Do you remember when your mom said Grandma wasn't fancy enough for their party?" I remember. I told her that was mean, but she made me go to my room. "That's right, my dear. Sometimes adults have to learn hard lessons. But can you come home, Grandma? It's so sad here. Very soon, sweetheart. I promise. I hung up, tears streaming down my face. I hadn't realized this plan would hurt Ethan. That was never my intention. Around 2 p.m., Olivia and I were having lunch on the balcony when we heard the sound of tires screeching up the driveway. Sis, looks like the cavalry has arrived, Olivia said, half nervous, half excited. Ryan's black BMW came to a sudden stop at the gate. I saw Ryan and Claire step out, both looking disheveled and anxious. Ryan was still in the same clothes as the day before, hair messy, eyes sunken. Claire's makeup was smudged, her hair wild, something I'd never seen before. They stood in front of the mansion for several minutes, speechless, staring at everything. The marble fountain, the perfect garden, the white columns, the view of the ocean. Their mouths hung open in disbelief. Finally, Ryan stepped forward and rang the doorbell. His trembling voice came through the intercom. Mom, I know you're in there. Please, we need to talk. I didn't answer right away. I let them wait 5 minutes, just long enough for me to finish my glass of champagne. Who's there? I asked, feigning innocence. Mom. It's me, Ryan. I'm here with Claire. Please, let us in. His voice was full of desperation, something I'd never heard before. Ryan, what are you doing here? Aren't you supposed to be enjoying your elegant European-style Christmas party? Silence filled the air, thick and heavy. Mom, please, we just need an explanation. None of this makes sense. An explanation for what, exactly? For this house, for the money, for why you hid all this from us. I never lied to you, Ryan. I just didn't tell you everything. And those are two very different things. I heard Claire's irritated voice in the background. Mrs. Angela, could you please open the gate so we can talk like adults? Of course, my dear son. But first, answer me one thing. Is this visit because you truly want to see me? Or because you saw the photos online and suddenly your mother became more interesting? My question cut through the air like a blade. Mom, it's not like that. We're just confused. Why didn't you ever tell us you had so much money? Because I wanted to know if you loved me for who I am, not for what I have, Ryan. And now I have all the answers I need. I pressed the button to open the automatic gate. Both of them walked slowly up the stone pathway, each step heavy with shock and realization. The woman standing before them now was no longer the poor, dependent mother they once knew, but a strong, independent woman, mistress of her own empire. When they reached the front door, I opened it myself, wearing an elegant red dress, a classic pearl necklace my late mother-in-law had left me. The look on their faces when they saw me standing there in my own mansion was exactly as I had imagined for 15 years. Stunned, confused, and for the first time in their lives genuinely respectful. Hello, Ryan. Hello, Claire. Welcome to my home. My voice was calm, steady, and full of quiet authority. Come in. We have a lot to talk about. Ryan and Claire stepped into the mansion, moving slowly, as if walking through a museum. Their eyes darted everywhere, filled with awe and fear, from the glittering crystal chandelier to the paintings on the walls, the marble floors, and the custom-designed furniture. They looked as if they were seeing a ghost, and that ghost was me. Sit down, I said, pointing to the Italian leather sofa in the main living room. They obediently sat, silent, something I hadn't witnessed in years. Usually, Claire would make a snide remark, or Ryan would try to control the conversation. But now, both looked lost, unmoored. Mom, can you explain what's going on? Ryan finally asked, his voice trembling. Small. Is this house really yours? Of course, son. I bought it a few days ago. Paid in full. Not a single loan. The words paid in full drained the color from both their faces. Claire, standing by the window overlooking the ocean, turned toward me with that calculating look I knew too well. Mrs. Angela, I don't understand. Where did you get that kind of money? Did you win the lottery and hide it from us? I let out a soft laugh, a sound that made them both even more uneasy. The lottery, Claire? No, darling. This is better than any lottery. This is the result of planning, smart investing, and patience. I stood and walked toward the window, savoring the feeling of complete control. When Robert passed away 15 years ago, you both assumed I was broke. I still remember those pitying looks at the funeral when you whispered, "Poor Mom. She'll probably have to sell the house and live off her pension." Ryan looked down, clearly remembering. What no one knew, I continued, was that Robert was a genius investor. For 20 years, he quietly bought stocks in small tech companies he believed would take off. He also bought land in places everyone thought was worthless, and now those lots are multi-million-dollar developments. Claire started to speak, but I stopped her with a cold, sharp glance. I'm not finished yet, dear. Robert didn't just leave me love, he left me a fortune of $5 million, and it's been quietly growing all these years. Now it's worth over 15 million. The room fell silent. Ryan looked as if he'd been punched in the chest. 15 million? He stammered. And you lived all that time in a small apartment, using coupons, even borrowing money from us? Yes, my dear, I replied calmly. For 15 years, I played the role of the poor widow just to see who truly loved me and who merely tolerated me out of obligation. I sat down in front of them, crossing my legs with the elegance I had hidden for years. But why? Claire asked, her voice genuinely trembling. Why did you pretend to be poor when you had all that money? Because I wanted to see the true hearts of the people around me. And the result revealed everything. Ryan leaned forward, his hands shaking. Mom, if we had known, we would have done things differently. That's right, Ryan. You would have treated me with respect. Claire wouldn't have mocked my clothes or my cooking, and instead of cutting me out of your plans, you might have chosen to include me. Claire's face flushed red as she mumbled, Mrs. Angela, I didn't mean to. Maybe sometimes I can be a little too blunt. A little too blunt? I stood, my eyes firm. Claire, for 5 years, you've treated me like a burden. You've made me feel like an outsider at every single gathering. Last year, you said the gift I gave Ethan was cheap and unworthy. 6 months ago, you told me not to attend his recital because the other moms dress more elegantly. And last month, you suggested I shouldn't bring my homemade dish to the family dinner because it doesn't match your sophisticated menu. Every word I spoke cut through the air like a bullet, and I could see each one hitting its mark. Ryan tried to defend his wife. Mom, Claire didn't mean to be cruel. She just has high standards. High standards, Ryan? You mean when your wife told me to wash my hands more carefully because older people sometimes forget when they're not clean enough? His voice dropped, dark with anger. Oh, plenty of things, son. So many things your wife said behind your back when you weren't around. Claire jumped up, her voice shaking. Mrs. Angela, you're exaggerating. Maybe I lacked a bit of tact sometimes, but I never meant to hurt you. Lacked tact? I cut her off, my tone low and firm. Even I was surprised by my own strength. Claire, just 2 days ago, you said I wasn't classy enough to dine with your parents. You mocked me for talking about coupons, calling it embarrassing. And you even suggested I should spend Christmas alone, watching TV. Ryan turned to his wife, his face pale, that look in his eyes I had never seen before. You said that to my mother? Ryan, I just meant my parents have their own expectations, Claire stammered, for the first time since I'd known her. Expectations about what, Claire? Ryan's voice rose. About my own mother? For the first time in years, my son was standing up for me, but it was far too late. Ryan, I said calmly, don't be angry at Claire. She's only showing her true nature just like you did, when you called to cut me out of your Christmas dinner without even asking how I felt. Mom, I thought you'd understand. Claire said it would be better that way. Claire said, Claire thought, Claire wanted. But what about me, Ryan? When will you ever ask what I want? I walked to the window and pointed toward the beach. Do you see that balcony out there? Last night, 35 people had dinner with me. 35 people who truly love me, none of whom ever made me feel like I wasn't good enough. Olivia flew in from Texas. Matthew dropped all his plans and brought his entire family. Neighbors, distant relatives, even old friends I hadn't seen in years, they all came, simply because I invited them. I turned around, my gaze steady. You know why, Ryan? Because real love and respect don't need money or a mansion to exist. Claire broke down crying, but not the tears of a victim, rather those of someone finally realizing the price of her actions. Mrs. Angela, I'm sorry, truly. If you had just told us sooner. But you didn't, Claire. And that's exactly why I kept it secret. I wanted to see how you'd treat me when you thought I had nothing. Ryan stood up and stepped closer to me. Mom, I know you're angry. And yes, we deserve it. But we're still family. We can fix this. Yes, Ryan, maybe we can. But yesterday, when you called to uninvite me from Christmas, you didn't seem to value family very much then. A terrible one, Claire convinced me, but I should have thought for myself. Finally, he admitted his fault, but the wounds ran too deep to heal so easily. Ryan, I said softly, my voice trembling. For 15 years, I waited for someone in this family to stand up for me. I waited for you, my only son, to care enough not to let anyone humiliate me right in front of you. But that moment never came. My voice quivered, revealing the pain I had buried for so long. Now you're here. Not because you realized I deserve respect, but because you found out I have money. Don't you see the difference? The room fell into a heavy silence like a verdict had been delivered. Claire stepped closer, her eyes red and swollen. Mrs. Angela, you're right. I treated you terribly. There's no excuse for it. But Ethan needs you. He doesn't understand why you disappeared. Ah, her final move using my grandson as an emotional shield. Ethan does need me, that's true. But he also needs to grow up in a family that knows respect and real values. And clearly, you both have a lot to learn about that. I turned toward the door, signaling that the conversation was over. But for today, it's enough. You know where to find me when you're ready to apologize sincerely. Not just cry because you realized you mistreated someone with power. I left them sitting there in that room, staring at each other, among the ashes of their pride. The days that followed were an emotional whirlwind. Ryan and Claire didn't give up after the confrontation at the mansion. In fact, they tried harder, in ways that surprised me. On the second day, Ryan showed up alone. Without Claire, his face wearing an expression I hadn't seen since he was a boy. True humility. Mom, I know I have no right to ask for anything after how I treated you, he began as I opened the door. But I need you to know I didn't sleep last night. I lay awake thinking about every moment I failed you as a son. His eyes were red, and for the first time in years, I saw my son vulnerable again. Come in, Ryan. But this time, you step into my house on my terms. I led him out to the balcony. the spot where I usually had my morning coffee. Sunlight shimmering across the blue ocean. Would you like some coffee? I poured it into a pure white porcelain cup, watching his eyes linger on every elegant detail things he'd seen before, but never truly understood their meaning. Mom, I want to ask you something real, and I need an honest answer. He sat up straight, his hands clasped tightly, like someone awaiting judgment. All these years, did you ever feel like I truly appreciated you, not out of obligation, but for who you are? That question caught me off guard with its rare sincerity. Ryan, there were beautiful moments when you were born, when you were little, when you truly needed me. But in recent years, I paused, searching for the right words. In recent years, I've only felt that you tolerated me, not that you cherished me. Ryan bowed his head, covering his face with his hands. Just as I feared. You're right. I've become someone I barely recognize. You let Claire make every decision for your family, even those that involved me, without ever standing up for your own mother. And that is something I can't easily forgive. What about Claire? I asked, wanting to know how she had reacted. She's still trying to process it. She's been crying since yesterday. She says she's the worst person in the world. But honestly, Mom, I don't know if those tears come from regret for hurting you or regret for losing access to what she could have gained. His honesty surprised me. And what about you, Ryan? Did you come here out of genuine remorse, or because now you know I'm not the financial burden you thought I was? I'm here because it hurts to realize how blind and cruel I've been to you, but also because I'm scared. Scared that I've already lost the only person who ever loved me unconditionally. At least you're being honest. I leaned back in my chair, my eyes following the waves crashing on my private beach. Ryan, for 15 years, I waited for you to realize you were losing me, but it took a mansion and money for you to finally see your mistake. You're right, Mom. His voice trembled, breaking. That makes me the worst kind of son. Mom, I know I don't deserve forgiveness. Maybe it's too late to fix what we did. But I need you to know I regret every single moment I made you feel unappreciated. And what about Ethan, Ryan? How do you explain all this to an 8-year-old? That's the hardest part, Mom. He doesn't understand why his grandmother disappeared. Every day he asks, Dad, why doesn't Grandma want to see me anymore? Tears streamed down my cheeks. That child bears none of the blame for his parents' mistakes, I whispered, my heart aching. I know, Mom, Ryan said, voice filled with remorse. I've been trying to tell him that sometimes adults make huge mistakes and need time to make them right. Just then, my phone rang. It was Olivia. Little sister, are you all right? I see Ryan's there with you. Don't worry, I'm fine. Ryan and I are having an important conversation. Good. I just wanted to let you know, Matthew called. The whole family knows now, and everyone's on your side, just so you know. I smiled and hung up. Ryan looked at me, curious. The whole family, they all know? Don't you get it? For years, everyone in the family has seen the way Claire treated me. They heard her snide comments. They watched how you both slowly pushed me out of your lives. This isn't just about money. It's about justice. Matthew said Claire once told him to wash his hands before touching the furniture. Olivia reminded me how she forgot to invite her to a party. Another cousin said Claire told her not to bring her kids along because they were too noisy. Ryan's face went pale with each example. I didn't know any of that. Claire never told me. She must have known she was wrong. Exactly, Ryan. But she still did it because she believed her influence over you was stronger than your loyalty to your own mother. Mom, is there any way you can forgive us? Any way to earn your trust back? Ryan, forgiveness isn't something you get with words alone. It's built through actions repeated. over time. So what do we have to do? His voice was desperate, but sincere. First, I said slowly, you both need to understand that this house isn't just my new home. It's a symbol of who I truly am, a woman you never really took the time to know. Second, you must accept that Ethan deserves to know who his grandmother truly is, not the dull version you two created. He should know he has every right to dream big, achieve greatness, and never let anyone make him feel small. And finally, I stood and walked out to the balcony. You both must commit to treating everyone with respect and dignity, no matter how rich or poor they are, because true elegance, Ryan, can't be bought in the luxury stores of Beverly Hills. Real grace lies in how you treat the people you think have nothing to offer you. Ryan joined me by the balcony, his gaze sincere. Mom, I know we have a long way to go. It may take years to earn your trust back, but I'm willing to do whatever it takes. As for Claire, she'll have to decide who she wants to become. But I promise you this, I'll never again let anyone, not even my wife, disrespect you. There's one more thing you should know, Ryan. I turned to him, smiling, a smile I hadn't shown anyone in years. This mansion isn't just mine, I said, my voice calm but firm. I'm leaving half of it to Ethan in my will, but he'll only inherit it if he grows up to be a man who treats others with kindness and respect. You mean you're leaving him millions of dollars? Ryan asked, astonished. That's right. But more important than the money, I replied. I'm leaving him a lesson. A person's true worth isn't measured by what they have, but by how they treat others, especially the ones they love. Ryan truly broke down in tears. Mom, after everything we've done, you still think about Ethan's future. I've always thought about his future, son. The only difference now is that I have the means to make sure he grows up to be an exceptional man. Can we bring Ethan to visit you? He misses you so much. Of course, but on one condition, I said. When he comes here, he'll meet his real grandmother, a businesswoman, a philanthropist, a property owner. I don't want him growing up believing that old people are a burden or that money determines a person's worth. Yes, Mom, whatever you say. Ryan hugged me for the first time in years. In that moment, I caught a glimpse of the little boy I once raised with all my love. There's still hope for us, son, I whispered, but it will take real action, not just pretty words. That afternoon, after Ryan left, I sat on the balcony watching the sunset, my heart full of reflection. I had gained far more than revenge. I had reclaimed my dignity, taught them valuable lessons, and opened the door to reconciliation, this time built on true respect. Most importantly, I had proven that it's never too late to stand up for yourself, to demand the treatment you deserve, and to remind the world who you truly are. 3 months after that fateful Christmas, I sat in my private office in the mansion, reviewing the plans for the charity foundation I had just decided to establish. From my mahogany desk facing the ocean, I watched the white-crested waves roll in, reminding me, life can change completely if you're brave enough to protect yourself and show your true worth. Ethan had been visiting me every weekend since January. The first time he came after what the family now called the revelation, he stood speechless for 10 minutes, his eyes wide as he looked around the mansion. Grandma, is all of this really yours? Yes, sweetheart. I smiled. And one day, if you grow up kind and generous, like I believe you will, a part of this will be yours. I explained to Ethan in words he could understand. Money is a tool to do good, not something to show off or use to make others feel small. And with the innocence of a child, Ethan understood immediately. Grandma, why didn't you tell everyone sooner? He asked one Saturday afternoon as we built sandcastles on the private beach. Because I needed to know who really loved me for my heart, Ethan. And now, I finally do. Ryan had kept his word over those 3 months. He worked to rebuild our relationship not with gifts or grand gestures, but through small, genuine actions I hadn't seen in years. He called every day, not to ask for anything, but simply to say, "How are you today, Mom?" He began visiting alone, without Claire, so we could have real conversations about life, about mistakes, and about how he could become a better man. "Mom," he said one Tuesday afternoon, "I've been thinking a lot. I realized that for years I stopped seeing you as a person and only saw you as my mother, as if that was the only thing you could ever be." "That's a mistake many people make, son," I replied. "People forget that their parents had entire lives before becoming parents and that they still have dreams, ambitions, and depths of their own." We were sitting in my library, surrounded by the books I'd collected over the years, but never had a place to display. "Mom," Ryan said, his voice trembling, "I want to know that woman. Angela, the entrepreneur, the investor, the one who built all of this while still living so modestly. She used coupons at the grocery store." The smile on his face when he said that it was genuine, not the polite kind I'd grown used to over the years. Claire, however, was different. In the first few weeks, she tried to approach me with apologies mixed with excuses. "Mrs. Angela, I know I behaved badly, but I didn't think you'd take everything so seriously." "Claire," I replied, with the calm I'd learned from years of meditating on the balcony, "the problem isn't that I took it seriously. The problem is that you tried to make me invisible in my own family for 5 years." But gradually, something in her began to change. Maybe it was seeing how Ryan had truly transformed, or realizing that she had been on the wrong side of the story. Claire started sending gentler messages, recalling the few good memories we shared, apologizing for words she now recognized as cruel. "Mrs. Angela, I've started therapy," she admitted during her first visit to the mansion in February. "My therapist helped me see that my behavior came from my own insecurities. That was the first time I saw real vulnerability in her." "Here's the issue, Claire," I said, my voice calm but firm. "You tried to make yourself feel better by making me feel worse, but that's never the way to heal." I poured tea into the fine porcelain set, noticing how her eyes lingered on every detail, a mix of admiration and regret. "I understand now," she said softly. "I know it will take years to earn your forgiveness, but I want you to know I'm truly committed to changing. Not just for you, but for Ethan. I don't want my son growing up thinking that treating people badly is normal." The most beautiful transformation, though, came from Ethan. Over time, he began to grasp the most profound lesson of all. "Grandma," he said one afternoon as we walked through the garden, "now I understand why you always tell me to be kind to everyone at school, even the kids who don't have nice toys. Why's that, sweetheart?" "Second," I asked, smiling, "because you never really know who's special on the inside. Like you look like a normal grandma, but you're actually a superhero." The reasoning of that 8-year-old boy was flawless. "Exactly, Ethan," I said, resting my hand on his shoulder. "And most importantly, everyone deserves kindness, whether they have money or power or not. That's what true elegance means." My story began spreading beyond the family. Evelyn shared my journey in several women entrepreneur groups across California, and I started receiving dozens of messages from older women who had gone through similar experiences. Many wrote about being underestimated and dismissed by their own families. One letter, in particular, moved me deeply. "Dear Mrs. Angela, your story gave me the courage to finally tell my family about the company I founded 20 years ago. For 2 decades, I pretended to be a dull retiree while secretly running a 6-figure business. Your courage helped me find myself again. Together with Evelyn, I founded the Dignity and Respect Foundation, an organization supporting older adults who have been neglected or disrespected by their families. Our first project was a program reconnecting grandparents with grandchildren whose toxic parents had deliberately kept them apart. You know what's the most beautiful part of all this, Mom? Ryan asked me during a dinner at the mansion last month. It was our first meal together, with Ryan, Claire, and Ethan. And it was perfect. What is it, son? You didn't just teach a lesson about respect. You showed that it's never too late to change your life, to stand up and demand the treatment you deserve. Claire nodded, tears rolling down her cheeks. And more importantly, I said, turning my gaze toward Ethan as he played with his puzzles in the living room. We're teaching him that true strength doesn't come from money, but from integrity, kindness, and the will to never let anyone make you feel small. That night, after they left, I stepped out onto the balcony and watched the stars reflect on the infinity pool below. I thought about the journey I had taken from that painful phone call to this very moment. A story that began with rejection and humiliation had ended in renewal and reclaimed dignity. I realized true revenge isn't about hurting others. It's about living so well that their cruelty becomes their greatest shame. I didn't need to destroy Ryan or Claire. The fact that they now understood what they had lost was punishment enough. I had reclaimed not just my dignity, but myself. I was no longer the poor old woman or the weak widow. I was Angela, the entrepreneur, the philanthropist, the woman who built an empire in silence and used her power to teach the world a lesson about respect and humanity. As the waves gently brushed against my private shore, if my story could help just one grandmother reclaim her dignity or inspire one family to treat their elders with more kindness, then every year of endurance had been worth it. At 65, I've learned this. It's never too late to rewrite your story, to show the world who you truly are, and to pass down the values that matter most to those you love. And that not the mansion or the fortune is the greatest legacy I could ever leave behind. Life has taught me this. Respect isn't something you beg for. It's something you claim and demand. Sometimes, the most powerful lesson you can teach is to live so brilliantly that your very existence becomes undeniable proof of everything others once underestimated. That night, I fell asleep peacefully in my grand bed, lulled by the soft sound of ocean waves, knowing I had achieved something few people ever do. A second chance to live fully, surrounded by the love and respect I always deserved. Angela's life is proof that even after the deepest wounds, love and forgiveness can still bloom. This story is a fictionalized tale inspired by true experiences, with names and settings changed to protect the privacy of those involved. Sometimes, when we are dismissed or cast aside, we must ask ourselves, should we stay silent or stand up and reclaim the respect we deserve? Angela chose to speak not through anger, but through kindness and strength beyond measure. She believes everything happens for a reason, and that God always blesses those who live with honesty and compassion. Thank you for listening to today's story. If you feel inspired, watch the 2 videos on your screen, where stories of faith, courage, and resilience continue to unfold.